Great comebacks in the world of MMA don't happen too often. As fans, we're usually treated to different kinds of fights, ranging from heavy-handed fireworks shows to grappling contests that often leave all of us watching in awe. It's also no secret that most fights in the world of MMA are either really close or one-sided bouts. There are a few exceptions though, where a fighter looked as if it wasn't going to be his night, yet the reality couldn't have been further from the truth. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. This is MMA Edge, and today we're going to be talking about the 5 greatest comeback fights in the UFC. 5 times where fighters literally pulled a rabbit out of their hat and somehow managed to snatch a win even in the face of insurmountable odds. Number 5. Derrick Lewis versus Alexander Volkov. We all know the comebacks don't usually happen in the world of MMA, and they usually leave us with our hands raised high in surprise when they do. Now that was the case when the heavyweight division's well-known knockout artist, Derrick Lewis, went up against a fighter with a reputation that was just as fierce, Alexander Drago Volkov, in UFC 229. Now Volkov looked to be winning early on in the fight as he immediately tagged Lewis with a vicious left cross, followed by a front kick to the body near the start of the first round. Volkov continued to pepper Lewis with well-placed counter-punches while biding his time, definitely avoiding the bombs that were being thrown his way. However, Lewis did manage to land a few well-placed power punches that could have easily knocked out lesser men. Now at one point, Lewis even ended up on top of Volkov in a mount position while dropping even more fearsome fists on his resilient adversary. Volkov immediately retaliated though in the second round as he slowed the pace of the fight and fought outside of Derrick Lewis's range. Now Lewis looked a lot more fatigued in the second and third round than he did in the first, and it looked as if Volkov had the fight in the bag. The odds of an instant knockout in the third round seemed slim for the worn-out, weary and bruised Derrick Lewis. But that sure didn't stop him from trying, and Volkov's accurate straight punches that were hitting the mark didn't make Lewis's task any easier. But Lewis somehow managed to knock his opponent out with a well-placed right hook and ended the fight with some vicious ground and pound. All that, and with only 10 seconds left in the fight. What a comeback. Number 4. Shane Carwin versus Brock Lesnar. UFC 116 arguably had the biggest main event matchup in UFC history. 2 titans, namely Shane Carwin, the man who was responsible for knocking out the likes of Frank Mir and Gabriel Gonzaga without even crossing over to the second round, fought against the venerable Brock Lesnar, the half-man, half-alligator from the WWE that sent chills down the spines of fans and fighters alike the moment he stepped into the cage. Carwin was a knockout artist with fists so heavy he could probably end up smashing bricks with them, and not the phony karate type ones, mind you. Now Lesnar, on the other hand, was a Division I wrestling champion and was also known for his insane speed and reflexes despite his heavy weight. It was a classic stylistic matchup between a wrestler versus a striker that ended in a comeback that no one saw coming. Carwin entered the fight with a perfect record of 12-0, and it looked as if he was going to add Lesnar's name on the long list of his victories that night when he clipped Lesnar with a series of powerful counterpunches that left the former WWE champion on wobbly legs. Carwin seemed to have Lesnar right where he wanted him in the first round when Lesnar was down on the mat and covering up from Carwin's vicious ground and pound that looked as though it would last forever. Brock seemed to have weathered the storm though, as he survived Carwin's onslaught, leaving Carwin running on an empty gas tank at the start of the second round. Brock then scored an easy takedown over the exhausted Shane Carwin in the next round and responded with some of his own ground and pound, although it wasn't nearly as significant as Carwin's barrage early on in the fight. Brock then shocked the world as he passed Carwin's guard after holding down the big man for several minutes ultimately submitting the knockout artist with a beautiful arm triangle choke. Brock looked as if he was finished in the first round of the fight, but bounced back and snatched the win from Carwin by utilizing his wrestling and grappling skills. Number 3, TJ Dillashaw versus Kobe Garbrandt, number 1. Now, there was definitely no love lost between former Team Alpha Male member TJ Dillashaw and hot bantamweight prospect Cody No Love Garbrandt in their fight at UFC 217. It's been an open secret that the two fighters have had a feud over TJ Dillashaw's controversial decision to train at Dwayne Ludwig's camp, leaving his old camp and his friends at Team Alpha Male behind. The feud reached a boiling point when the two fighters became the opposite head coaches for The Ultimate Fighter Season 25, better known as The Ultimate Fighter Redemption. Their long-anticipated fight finally came when UFC 217 finally arrived, and the fans definitely got their money's worth that night. It was a fireworks show, with both fighters landing significant strikes over the other in succession. Fans lapped up all the action and responded with oohs and ahs. Garbrandt got the better of Dillashaw, however, when he got close to winning the fight by landing a powerful counter right hook that landed flush on Dillashaw's chin. The punch instantly knocked him down, and it looked as if Garbrandt would get a quick win. Dillashaw was literally saved by the bell as the round ended before Garbrandt was able to follow up his attacks after knocking his opponent down. The fans expected Dillashaw to lose the fight after seeing such a dominant first round from Garbrandt, although the pound-for-pound best bantamweight fighter had other plans that night. Dillashaw answered right back on the second round with a counter right hook as well, which quickly put Garbrandt's lights out, ending the fight and snatching the victory away from Kobe Garbrandt's hands. Number 2, Czech Congo versus Pat Barry. Not a lot of people know about this fight, and if you haven't seen this one, I seriously suggest you watch it yourself. Many people consider this to be one of the most exciting fights in UFC history. Czech Congo and Pat Barry suddenly found themselves headlining the card of UFC on Versus 4 due to many different fighters pulling out from the card and several other bouts being called off. The fans would not be disappointed though, as the fight was just as exciting as anyone could have ever expected, with Barry landing a stiff overhand right that quickly felled the much larger Czech Congo in the first round. Now, Barry continued raining down a barrage of punches on Congo and subsequently knocked him down a second time. Viewers inside the arena and around the world quickly assumed that Barry had already won the fight, but Czech had one last trick up his sleeve. Congo quickly got up in order to avoid any further damage and demonstrated his punching power by landing a vicious right uppercut on Barry while standing on wobbly legs. The uppercut sent Barry crashing down on the mat, and Congo had won the fight a couple of ground and pound strikes later. Number 1, Chael Sonnen versus Anderson Silva, 1. UFC and MMA legend Anderson Silva was up against his deadliest challenger, the All-American Chael Sonnen. Silva had been on a roll prior to his fight against Chael, although Silva's winning streak meant nothing to the accomplished amateur wrestler, going as far as taunting the former middleweight champion's home country, Brazil. The rivalry ultimately came to a boiling point when they finally fought on the main event of UFC 117. Chael had completely dominated Silva in the first 4 rounds of the fight, chopping down the Spider with his aggressive double-leg takedowns and pounding Silva's head against the mat with his fists. Sonnen had easily earned several 10-8 rounds in his favor in that fight, and Silva looked as if he was finally going to be handed his first ever loss after winning 12 straight times. Although Silva didn't seem to have an answer against Chael's relentless wrestling and ground and pound style by suddenly submitting Sonnen on the 5th and final round via a triangle choke. And that's going to be it for today's video. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more UFC and MMA related content.